Let the word go forth.
Fool me once.
Are you fired up?
I'm not a crook.
Are you ready to go?
Shame on you.
It's Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, hosted by Ben Kissel.
Fool me, can't get fooled again.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Ben Kissel. I'm staring at Marcus Parks.
Oh, you're staring hard.
We got breaking news right here on Abe Lincoln's Top Hat. The juice is loose.
Oh, my God. He got parole. Just got a notification on my phone that OJ Simpson could leave prison as early as October 1st.
Orenthal is out. Can we get, instead of the juice is loose, Orenthal is out.
You sound like a baseball commentator.
He does. It does. Orenthal up to bat, and he's murdered the pitcher. And the catcher. OJ Simpson is gone. 9 years incarcerated at Lovelock Correctional Facility in Nevada. And he was, of course, serving 33 years on armed robbery charges. Of course, that sentence was sort of given to him. They threw the book at him the second time around.
F. Lee Bailey called it the fifth quarter.
Oh, isn't it bad?
Yeah.
The fifth quarter, the way F. Lee Bailey, the disgraced attorney.
The disgraced attorney who is now living above a hairdressing salon. Yeah. And the reason why he's living there, he's dating the hairdresser.
Perfect.
Yeah. Remember when we went to CrimeCon, we were like, oh my God, how did they get F. Lee Bailey? How did they get him? Like, he's such a huge name. How did they get him? Turns out he'll say yes to anyone who gives him money.
That's right.
In fact, OJ stopped talking to him.
Really?
I read that OJ was advised to stop talking to F. Lee Bailey because F. Lee Bailey spends all his time in the company of murderers.
Isn't that interesting?
OJ's lawyer told him that F. Lee Bailey would be a detriment to OJ Simpson's reputation.
The accused double murderer.
The accused double murderer.
Can't talk to F. Lee Bailey, a former attorney.
Yeah, because they said that it would actually hurt his chances of parole if it was known that F. Lee Bailey was in regular contact. So OJ cut off F. Lee Bailey from prison.
You know, we have a great interview coming up at the end of the episode. This is actually taken from an interview I was able to do when I host the show on Sirius Channel 450. I had a chance to interview Jeffrey Felix, who wrote a book called Garden the Juice. He has an epic mullet, a mullet that is just, can you play guitar? Because if you can't, you got to cut it. It is so incredible.
He has a prison guard mullet.
A powerful prison guard mullet. And I interviewed him. We're going to play that interview at the end of the episode. A fascinating guy in many ways. He loves OJ Simpson.
Yeah.
And, you know, OJ Simpson, one of the interesting things on these parole hearings that has come out that regarding his behavior in prison, they say he's been a model prisoner, a model inmate, but at the end of the day, it was because he got away with everything.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Felix was telling me, and you'll hear that in the interview, he was told from the warden, watch OJ. I mean, everyone sort of looked out for OJ Simpson. If anyone was attempting to attack him, those individuals would be put in solitary confinement immediately. O.J. Simpson was allowed to cut in front of the line at Chow, which is for prison. That's like better than having a yacht. If you can cut in the Chow line with no repercussions whatsoever, you are prison royalty. So that's why when they talk about O.J. having a stellar record in prison, it was because no one held him accountable for anything.
Yeah.
It's not that he was some model individual that that all the other inmates looked up to. He took all the classes. He did everything he had to do in order to get paroled now 9 years in, again, to his 33-year sentence. But it's very funny if you look at what Jeffrey Felix is actually saying. Basically, the entire time I'm talking to him, he was so enamored with the celebrity of O.J. Simpson that it trumped the fact that he was in there for real reasons, for armed robbery, granted stealing back his own memorabilia that the state of California inevitably gave to him, which is very bizarre.
Well, he stole other memorabilia besides just his own memorabilia.
Well, he said that was an accident. He did. He said there was baseballs.
You're getting charmed by OJ now.
I love OJ. Orenthal. I want some Domino's pizza on October 1st when he gets out. I want to watch him drive to a wonderful resort in Florida and play a couple of rounds of golf. Maybe he'll go to Mar-a-Lago.
He's going to Florida. I mean,
Definitely.
he's living out his days in Florida. That's without a doubt.
Well, I don't want to ruin the end of the interview, but I did ask Jeffrey Felix if he would hang out with OJ Simpson when he gets out or if he gets out. And my goodness, did he say yes. He can't wait to hang out with the juice on the outside.
Oh, and I'm sure OJ can't wait to hang out with his prison buddies.
They are friends.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand the charm of OJ. We watched a little bit of his parole hearing today. It's Thursday, July 20th here when we're recording this. And there was one moment where one of the parole officers or people on the parole board asked him if he believes the memorabilia was his. And you could see that switch where OJ definitely got annoyed with the question because he had just gone on to he just finished a long explanation of what happened, the event, the night of the event where the armed robbery took place. And you could see he still got the fire.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, man, that doesn't go away.
If he does commit another murder, it's going to be tough for him to get off.
I don't think he's going to get off. And he's still not taking any responsibility for his actions whatsoever.
It's strange, though.
They asked him about him actually taking these kind of classes. I think it was a victim empathy class.
Yeah, he took a lot of those.
Yeah, and he said, I've lived largely a conflict-free life. OJ Simpson, the domestic batterer, the double murderer,
possible
the fucking armed robber,
accused double murderer. Please.
Yes, but he's lived a largely conflict-free life.
Yes, and in the interview again that you guys will hear, Jeffrey Felix, it's just fascinating. He does not believe he's guilty, and he convinced a jail guard of his innocence. So there's something to the guy, and of course you go back, you watch him on Naked Gun, you watch some old Hertz commercials, you can see that charm. But then, of course, the accusations of double murder do erode that charm a little bit, at least in my mind. But apparently not in the mind.
He killed both of them.
Yeah.
You go.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's about one of the most cut and dry cases in American legal history.
Yeah, possibly. 90 million people watched the Bronco chase. As a matter of fact, if you want to go listen to last podcast on the left, we did a great episode on OJ Simpson. 2 episodes, I believe.
It was just one.
It was just the one episode?
That was back before we started doing 2-parters on a regular basis.
Oh, this before you ruined your entire brain.
Oh, yeah.
Remember those drug commercials where this is your brain on drugs and it was the egg?
Yeah.
But that's this is your brain on podcast, Marcus. This is your brain on research, Marcus Parks.
Hey, man, I'm doing better than I ever have.
You look good.
I'm doing the best I ever did.
Oh, God.
I'm doing the best that I can.
It's not good, though. That's the one problem with that song where it's I know you're doing the best you can, but can you do it better? Can you still be better? Let's get on to some politics news here. We have Donald Trump. Obviously, the health care bill that the Republicans have put forward is dead on arrival. Donald Trump is now currently threatening Republicans who aren't supporting the bill. Republicans such as Dean Heller of Nevada. Nevada's big in the news this week, apparently. Dean Heller is one of the more moderate Republicans, along with Susan Collins of Maine. And Murkowski, a lot of other individuals who are moderate Republicans went back to the town halls on July 4th and got an earful from their constituents and chose to not support the Republican health care bill as is because it does too much to gut and cut Medicaid and Medicare. And then you have your more libertarian-leaning, your more conservative wing of the Republican Party, Ron Johnson, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee. They don't like it, and of course Rand Paul, they don't like it because it doesn't go far enough to repeal Obamacare, the ACA. And then you have Donald Trump, who is attempting to try to cobble together a coalition, but at the end of the day, he's pissed off so many people in the right, in the middle, and on the left. He's understanding that politics are extremely difficult when you don't have any allies, and you don't even have the approval rating of the American people. There was 2 interesting polls that came out this week, one from Bloomberg and one from Fox News. It was a Fox News poll, and I know people are like, Fox News poll, but it doesn't paint a pretty picture of Donald Trump. No. So that's why I give it some credence, because without a doubt, Fox News, I believe, would like the numbers to be quite different.
Yeah.
And Bloomberg, they did a poll regarding Hillary Clinton and her approval rating. Her approval rating is 39%, which is not good whatsoever. Again, this is a great reminder that we had horrible options. We had a buffet to choose from full of rotten food in 2016. So her approval rating is at 39%, according to this Bloomberg poll. Again, she's not president, so it really doesn't matter.
Not really.
Despite the fact, if you watch Tucker Carlson, who I have no beef with Tucker. I like to go on his show, but you would think that Hillary Clinton was currently the leader of the free world, and they're trying to take her down because Fox News is just focusing on Hillary and the Russians.
All of them are just focusing on Hillary. I mean, Trump is still focusing. They're all just focusing on Hillary. I mean, it is
she's not president.
It's the saddest attempt at misdirection. It is very misguided, and it's not obviously not working. If Fox News, Fox News, that's going to be a little skewed. 41%.
Yeah, Donald Trump is sitting at 41%. He's 6 months into his presidency. And a little context, if you look at presidents of the past, if you look at the final 4 years of George W. Bush, 2004 to 2007, he was at 36% when he left office. This was only 5 percentage points down, or 4.5 percentage points down from Donald Trump. And this took a failed war. The economy was collapsing. This whole country was in dire straits by the end of the George W. Bush administration. All of the scandals, Guantanamo Bay. You can just go on and on with the scandals that happened under Bush. He left office at 36%. Barack Obama left office after 8 years at 46%. We have a situation now where we're 6 months into a presidency, and he's sitting at 41%. If you go back and look at the early numbers for Obama in his first 4 years, he was at 49% after his first 4. And W was in the 60s because, of course, he had quite a bump after 9/11, and he did handle that very well. His approval rating was roughly 90%.
He handled you mean immediate?
The immediate,
like the first week and a half afterwards. Yeah, he was pretty good that first week and a half.
Before Rummy got into his ear and Ashcroft and Cheney, before the war machine that he succumbed to, fought and won every victory in the White House when it comes to foreign policy and legislation going forward. But the American people did rally around the flag, and they rallied around George W. Bush. And in that moment, he actually did a fairly good job standing on a mass grave, which was, unbelievably sad. But he was at 60% after 4 years in office, and now we have a situation where Donald Trump is at 41% 6 months in. And politics are different than business. Polls are those are leverage. That's how you get things done. You look at the American people. You show congressmen, members of the House and members of the Senate. Look at the support that I have for this legislation. You better push it forward, or there's going to be negative ramifications in your future, and you might lose your seat. But when you have poll numbers like the ones that are that Fox News got for Donald Trump, 45% of the American people think he's doing a good job on the economy. That's the cornerstone of his whole campaign. That's his, I'm a businessman, I'm going to bring back jobs. He's under 50%. 6 months into this administration, he has no political capital whatsoever. And he's learning when you don't have political capital, when you've made enemies, again, with all factions of both political parties, you don't really have anywhere to go. You become isolated, and then you're just allowed to get battered and beat up by media and by other politicians, specifically when it comes to the Russian scandal, which is going nowhere because Donald Trump has zero ability to stop the bleeding, stop the hemorrhaging, and he has no ability to pass anything that would surpass the narrative that Russia and the Russian collusion story is significant. If he could actually pass health care, maybe we don't talk about Russia for a week. If he could actually get something done when it comes to foreign policy and things like that, maybe we wouldn't be talking about the Russian collusion scandal, but it just continues. New information just continues to come to light, and a huge story broke this week from the New York Times regarding Donald Trump and his anger and rage towards Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Did you see this article, Marcus?
Yeah, I did.
So this was Maggie Haberman and two other individuals wrote this article.
Maggie Haberman, Michael Schmidt, and Peter Baker.
And they actually interviewed Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, it's interesting because he is a notorious liar. He spins a lot. And CNN and all these, in some ways he's not wrong. A lot of these news outlets are horrible, and they're just trying to get ratings, and information is on the back burner for their main concerns. They want the eyes and the ratings. But then he goes on and he says very honest things that are troubling.
Yeah.
And the honest thing that he said in this interview with the New York Times was that he was extremely angry with Jeff Sessions for recusing himself from the Russian scandal. And Donald Trump said that had he known that Jeff Sessions was going to recuse himself, he would have never hired him, which leads one to believe that he wanted Jeff Sessions to be Attorney General during the Russian collusion scandal so he could get off scot-free, which is a horrifying notion. Of course, this could just be another situation where Donald Trump is surrounded by individuals who aren't telling him the truth, are surrounded by people who are doing nefarious things, and he might be so isolated that he just doesn't know. So there's that angle to it. Or he does know, and he's actually purposefully attempting to obstruct justice.
Well, one of Donald Trump's hallmarks is that he hires yes men.
Yes.
He hires, and in fact, he's on record saying, like, never hire someone smarter than you. He's like, that's a bad idea. Don't hire people smarter than you.
And I think that's such a horrible policy. I
it's
personally,
awful.
I want to be the dumbest person in the room because then you know you're around smart people.
Yeah. Absolutely. He hires nothing but yes men, so it is very possible that all of this has been shielded from him, and then I'll tell him, like, Don, you know what, everything's great. Everything's, excuse me, Mr. President, everything's fine, everything's great. Don't worry about it. None of this stuff actually happened. Everything's fine. So it's possible he doesn't know any of the shit, and he's just a little boy with his phone in the corner. I mean,
could be.
It really could be.
And to some degree, we talk about the mental stability of Donald Trump, and obviously it's a little bit hyperbolic. I mean, it is what it is. But to some degree, it is a form of gaslighting to not inform, a person about, the actions that are going on around them. And then that individual goes to Twitter or goes to the New York Times or goes to Fox News, whatever it might be, and they just don't have the information to form a cohesive thought and opinion that is actually relevant to the situation. So maybe Donald Trump just doesn't have the information that is needed in order to fully understand the scope of what's happening right now regarding the Russian scandal.
Yeah, I mean, it's plausible deniability.
Yeah, and that's what every president wants.
Yeah.
That's what every president demands and needs. Individuals around the president, I suppose, rather, not the president themselves, because, again, they don't know a lot of the things which gives them the ability to deny out of ignorance, which is all that plausible deniability is.
Yeah.
So last week we were in Los Angeles, so we weren't able to talk about this email story with Donald Trump Jr.
We weren't able to talk about collusion. Illusion.
Oh my God, Kellyanne Conway is just, it is. My girlfriend Brooke Rogers tweeted out, "Is it a Coen Brothers movie?" Because it is just straight up like, I just feel like soon the whole country is just going to be underwater and shoe polish is going to be rolling by. It just feels like a scripted movie from a sort of awkward comedy.
Yeah,
that's what America right now is, an awkward comedy.
Yeah.
That's the best way that I could describe it.
It's like Coen Brothers directing an episode of Veep.
Really is. Yeah, and Veep is incredible.
I love it.
Oh, I love Veep. Yeah. So we're going to read some of these emails that came in to Donald Trump Jr. The emails, the actual subject of the email, you can't even make this up. It is Russia, Clinton, private and confidential. Not even attempting to hide the fact that this is an email correspondence with the Russians. And if you deal with an individual who has the power to come to the United States, a lawyer from Russia, without a doubt that individual has ties to the Kremlin.
Yeah.
You just don't get to that status in Russia without ties to the Kremlin. Everything leads to Putin. Mm-hmm. Everything leads to the Kremlin. That's the way their society is set up. So Russia, Clinton, private and confidential. Yeah. And I want to say,
and by the way, they know that too. These guys,
they know it. Yeah, of course.
The Trumps have been doing business in Russia for years and years and years. Like, they know exactly how Russia works. They know how you get things done in Russia. Absolutely. And they know it all goes through the Kremlin. Anything they say to the contrary is a complete and total lie.
Oh yeah, they rented out multiple buildings to Russian oligarchs, and the oligarchs obviously have ties to the Kremlin, because you don't become wealthy in Russia unless Vladimir Putin likes you.
Yeah,
otherwise you are gone. You're imprisoned, or you are imprisoned, dead, or you've had to skip town.
Yeah.
and go to another nation.
Oh hell, Trump he expanded Miss Universe into Russia in, I think, 2010.
Look at that.
And Mueller is actually investigating that.
Robert Mueller, another individual that Donald Trump talked about in the New York Times. He wants to fire Mueller, but then what does that look like?
Yeah.
Obviously, and special counsel, I don't believe he has the ability to actually fire a special counsel.
No.
So a lot of the people on the right have argued that this email chain to Donald Trump Jr. was an Obama plant. This is a deep state plant. This is what they argue. And you know what?
Fucking morons!
I know, Marcus, I'm going to give it to him. I will say,
you're
okay,
gonna give this one to
let's
him?
say this was. Let's say it was a Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton campaign plant. He fell for it.
I know. That's
So
exactly.
it doesn't matter.
That was my first thought. That if well, it's an Obama Clinton plan. It's like, well, he's a fucking So what if he is? He's a fucking moron if he did fall for it. Like they're idiots. He fell for it. He fell into the trap. And these are the people you want running everything.
But now again, the question will constantly be argued. The legality, is this illegal? Campaigns meet. This happens. Certainly if Hillary Clinton was elected president, Fox News would look just like CNN and it would be flipped.
Yeah.
It
was for the last 8 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
that's the illusion of choice, the illusion of media. It's the same stuff on both sides.
I mean, it's Fox News would turn into, it would just have continued being what it's been for the last 8 years. Nothing would have changed.
And that's it. And CNN would be defending Hillary and this whole, again, 2016, we need leadership in this country, just viable leaders that are not horribly corrupt. 2016 just gave us no possible good options for this nation's future. So we're going to read some of the emails here. Rob Goldstone is the man who sent the email initially to Donald Trump. Now, I don't believe Rob Goldstone himself is Russian, but
he's English.
He's English.
He's a tabloid reporter.
Okay, but now Marcus is going to read this as if he was Russian, just because that's more fun. And then I will respond to the initial email as Donald Trump Jr., and we'll do a couple of these correspondence. So let's just start here on June 3rd, 2016. Rob Goldstone wrote to Donald Trump Jr.
Good morning. Eamon just called and asked me to contact you with something very interesting. The Crown Prosecutor of Russia met with his father Aris this morning, and in their meeting offered to provide the Trump campaign with some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia and would be very useful to your father. This is obviously very high-level stuff and sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump. Helped along by Aris and Eamon. What do you think is the best way to handle this information? And would you be able to speak to Eamon about it directly? I can also send this info to your father via Rona, but it is ultra-sensitive, so I wanted to send to you first. Best, Rob Goldstone.
On June 3rd, 2016, Donald Trump Jr. wrote, "Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. I'm on the road at the moment, but perhaps I just speak to Eamon first. Seems we have some time, and if it's what you say it is, I love it, especially later in the summer. Could we do a call first thing next week when I am back? Best, Don." So let's break down this email a little bit that was sent by Rob Goldstone initially. The line that's getting a lot of attention is this line. This is what Rob Goldstone wrote. This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump. That line is getting a lot of press, and naturally it should, because that is blatant that the Russian government's involved here.
And if you want to know something really interesting, is that it was proved that Fox News was purging that line from their website when they reported.
That's fair and balanced. That's keeping it balanced.
When they reported on this story, they left that line out of the email, and someone actually proved that if you put that line into the comments, they were swiped.
Interesting.
They were erased. So Fox News was doing everything it could, because that's the line that proves that it was a Russian government operation. It proves it. It 100% proves it.
And I had a chance to speak with Charlie Spees. He's a legal analyst and campaign expert. And even he's a Republican supporter of the Trump administration. Even he said, this fella Charlie Spees, even he said it was like, yes, in hindsight, that's a horrible. Donald Trump Jr. should have caught that immediately.
Yeah.
But they sort of rationalize it. And this is coming in June. So we are in the middle of this very toxic, heated, insane campaign.
Where is this in relation to Grab Her by the Pussy?
Oh, grab her by the vagina was that was your October surprise.
That was October. Okay. That's right. We were in the UK when that happened,
and that was also the same time that James Comey this is October. James Comey reopened the investigation. That was also the time where a lot of premiums went up, were scheduled to go up for millions of Americans across the country. So October, there was multiple surprises. So that line right there is absolutely fascinating. And then it also says, I can also send this information to your father via Rona. Rona is sort of the gatekeeper of Donald Trump. She's been with him for decades and decades and decades, which she's a character that I would really like to know more about. Yeah. Speaking of the Coen brothers kind of theme, Rona, she seems like, what's going on with Rona? Because she has a lot of power.
Yeah.
And if she would speak, it would be fascinating. So that line right there, this is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but as part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump, should have sent red flags and chills down the spine of Donald Trump Jr. But I guess the fog of war? I guess being in the middle of this campaign, you are busy, you are tired, and I'm not making excuses here. I'm just trying to give some context. You just inexperience with politics. It just slips through the mental cracks. That's one side. Or he understood completely what was going on, and he was just thrilled with the idea of getting what he calls opposition research.
I mean, think about it this way. If he was an Obama plant, if he was a Hillary plant, then that means that your man, Donald Trump, and his son, Donald Trump Jr., got duped by one email from a tabloid reporter.
Right.
That's it. That's all it took. One email from a tabloid reporter was all it took. That's how weak these people are. That's how stupid these people are.
How desperate they were as well.
How desperate they were, and how desperate they are. How fucking desperate do you think they are right now? I mean, if they were desperate then, imagine how desperate the situation in the White House is, and what they could reach out to and what they could say yes to.
Let's not forget that Donald Trump Jr. did tweet these emails out himself because of the his back was against the wall. There was a gun to his head, a proverbial gun to his head, obviously. The New York Times were going to release these on their own. Donald Trump chose to release them and sort of bite the bullet in an attempt to stop the bleeding. I don't know if that really worked or not. It doesn't seem as if it did. He also goes on, Donald Trump, they go on to basically just schedule the meeting. And on June 7th, 2016, Donald Trump writes, "Great, it will likely be Paul Manafort, campaign boss, my brother-in-law, and me." So now he puts Paul Manafort, Jared Kushner, and himself in this meeting so blatantly that you do wonder if he understood what was going on here, and if he understood what was at stake.
Yeah. Or if he just thought like, hey, yeah, like Paul Manafort. Hey, Manafort, you know this Russian thing? You have a lot of experience in Russia. You should probably be in on this meeting.
Right, and that's why Manafort will be, going in and testifying in front of Congress. Jared Kushner also. You get these guys under oath, and regardless of what happened here with these emails or what actually happened in the campaign, what happens to a lot of people, including the great Martha Stewart. It's not what they actually do. Martha Stewart, of course, was tried for insider trading, but she lied under oath. That's often where they catch these guys.
Yeah.
Perjury. I believe it was, what was the baseball player who also had, was it Clement?
Pete Rose?
No, not Pete Rose. Was it Clemente? Or there was a baseball player who testified.
Bobby Bonilla.
Not Bobby Bonilla. That's the only one that Henry knows.
Mark McGuire?
Maybe it was Mark McGuire.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Sammy Sosa.
Not Sammy Sosa. Leave the Sosa alone. He was juicing a little bit, but I got to watch him live at Wrigley Field, and that was very fun.
I bet so.
Do not go to Wrigley Field stoned because the whole stadium is melting, even if you're sober. So do not do that. But it'll be interesting to hear these people under oath. Do they tell the truth? And if you don't tell the truth, this is where they can really stick you to the wall. So that's sort of the update on what's happening with the Russian scandal. There's so much speculation. There's so much chatter about it. At the end of the day, we definitively know the Russians had communications with the Trump campaign at the time. We do not know if Donald Trump knew about these correspondence. We do know Manafort knew. We know Jared Kushner knew. We know that Jeff Sessions, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, had to recuse himself from the investigation because he lied about having meetings with the Russians. He had 2 meetings with Russians. We know that
We know all of them
Michael
lied.
Flynn lied to Vice President Mike Pence, and Mike Pence is now trying to distance himself from this entire thing, talking about how he wasn't even part of the campaign yet in June. So there is just so much smoke. And are these emails the fire? Mm-hmm. We don't. I mean, it's getting there. It's smoldering. What will it take?
It's getting very close.
It will take a Donald Trump in the room with these individuals, and there is a picture with Donald. I mean, that's the other thing. It is a small world when you are at that level. When you are dealing with international real estate, the world becomes very small. Yeah. And so the idea that these people have interactions isn't necessarily what's the problem. What the problem is, the specific interactions that this email exposes, this email reveals, is that it was opposition research against Hillary Clinton. And going back to that Fox News poll, the vast majority of Americans, 73%, I believe, in the poll, believe that the Russians wanted Donald Trump to win. I believe it was only 13% that believed that the Russians wanted Hillary Clinton to win. I don't know where on earth they found 13% of the American population that somehow believes the Russians wanted Hillary Clinton to win, but those people
any of
exist.
these questions, if there's like 13% or like, you know how like Congress has like 8%.
Who are those 8? Yeah.
There's just people who didn't understand the question.
Oh,
there's
that could be,
just
yeah.
people who they either didn't understand the question or they just like to be contrarian.
Could be.
Which there's a lot of contrarians here in this country.
Could be. Yeah, and that poll, very interestingly enough as well, shows massive support for the FBI, the CIA, for Mueller, and for James Comey. James Comey's at about 49% support. And again, Donald Trump is just down there at around 45% of support when it comes to trusting him in this investigation.
Didn't he also tweet that 41% is not that bad?
Not that bad.
For this time.
It's really horrible. I mean, just in context, we are 6 months in, 41%. How does he get above that? You know, how does it happen? I don't see how it does happen, barring some unbelievable, even the economic news is not bad. Wall Street is doing very well. Job creation, it's not horrible. A lot of people will equate that to Obama's economic policies. But, it's just, I just don't see how he gets above this number anytime soon, if ever. But I was thinking about this last night, like, we haven't gone to war. We're not in a war. That's good.
Not yet.
There are some good things
6
happening.
6 months in, and your fucking good thing not happening.
I'm happy we're not in a war.
Your good thing is we haven't gotten into a war yet.
Yeah,
that's how low your standards are now.
Yeah,
is that you're just
the last Republican administration, they were chomping at the bit at this time.
They were. Well, I
Not
guess
quite yet,
6 months in. No, we were still talking about education and schools and such.
Yeah, we had to have a big catastrophe before the war, before the drumbeat to war.
It was 6 months in. I guess at this time in the Bush administration, we were talking about No Child Left Behind, right?
Yeah, that economic failure, total educational failure as well.
Yeah.
But so I mean, it's really it's very difficult for Donald Trump at this point to get any footing whatsoever politically in Washington. He's just sort of a Boy Scout who took a wrong turn on a trail and is in quicksand and doesn't understand the more you fight, the harder you sink. And he's pissed off so many individuals. Again, on the left, the right, and the middle, and the intelligence community. He doesn't have a lot of allies. And now the allies that he does have, again, Kushner, Manafort, Donnie Jr., they're all falling away.
Yeah.
Because, can they maintain their positions of power if these collusion scandals, even if it's not legal, if it's the perception of illegality, can they maintain their roles as they are now? And I just don't think it's possible.
Let me ask you this. What's Bannon up to right now?
According to a lot of conspiracy theorists, he's going to be imprisoned. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know what Bannon. You do wonder what Bannon is up to.
What's Bannon doing? Bannon's doing something.
I haven't heard it. I have not heard.
He's been forgotten. He's the biggest ally in the White House that no one has said a word about in months. He's doing something. He's up to something. He's always up to something.
He's always. Yeah, I think he's up to drinking. I think we might be overestimating what Steve Bannon is doing.
I think he's up to about 2:30.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's still fairly ostracized from the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Because when he got the security clearance, that caused such an uproar, and it got so many people pissed off with Donald Trump, and he just constantly suggested such asinine things that I'm pretty sure Steve Bannon is still sort of inconsequential when it comes to what the Trump administration has planned going forward, because you haven't heard anything about him. Of course, there is no denying that his sort of worldview is still something that, kind of permeates through Donald Trump. If you look at what happened with the G20, we can also get into that, this supposed private meeting with Vladimir Putin that Donald Trump said lasted 15 minutes, but is reported to have lasted upwards of an hour. What did they talk about? Donald Trump said that they talked about adoption, which is probably just code words for sanctions.
Yeah.
And now you have the situation where if Donald Trump, the optics are so bad for Trump and the Trump administration when it comes to Russia. If you recall, Barack Obama in December, he closed down the 2 embassies. I believe one was Long Island. The other one was in Massachusetts, I want to say. And these were 2 Russian embassies that held 35 Russian diplomats, a.k.a. Russian spies. Kicked those out. The Russians want those back. They claim those to be their private property, And if Donald Trump does, if they do reopen those 2 facilities, those 2 diplomatic facilities, and if they do lift the sanctions that the Obama administration put forward with the Russians, I mean, what message does that send to the people who are extremely concerned that this country is in bed with the Russians and is in and that Donald Trump is indebted to the Russians for his victory in 2016? I mean, granted, again, I don't believe that the Russians did give the victory to Donald Trump. I think Hillary Clinton and her horribly run campaign basically just conceded and gave it to Donald Trump because they didn't campaign in the states they had to campaign. And again, her approval rating, according to this Bloomberg poll, is 2 percentage points less than him, which is a moot point because she's not president.
No, I think that also has to do with a lot of people are very mad at her because they blame her for Donald Trump getting in office, which they should.
In a lot of ways. A lot of ways. So I don't know what Steve Bannon is up to, but his worldview is still what the Donald Trump doctrine, his foreign policy doctrine, this American First doctrine, that is a Steve Bannon worldview. So to that degree, Steve Bannon is still a relevant figure, and at the very least in philosophy. I don't know what his actual active role is in the White House, again, other than probably trying to rebuild Nixon's bowling alley and just getting hammered.
Basketball court out of here.
The blacks play basketball. I want the bowling ball. Give me the lanes. Mr. Bannon, if you build it, you can have it. I'll build it. Still got the basketball lane, like all the lines on the basketball court, but is now just a bowling ball lane.
I'll build it.
I'm building it. I'm going to build it. But yeah, that's an interesting question. Let's go on briefly. I want to talk about Chris Christie. This is something I didn't know. Chris Christie, of course, he is checked out. He's so done being governor. His approval rating is at 15%. No one likes him in New Jersey. Of course, Bridgegate, Beachgate. And now we find out the reason that Donald Trump Jr., or one of the reasons that Donald Trump Jr. did not like him or turned on Chris Christie was a situation involving a cell phone. Marcus, do you have this story?
The reason why Donald Trump Jr. turned on him?
Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump Jr.
Donald Trump Sr. President Trump's decision to part ways with Chris Christie came after the New Jersey governor offered his own cell phone as means for speaking with former President Barack Obama. And they thought that was Christie's ultimate mistake because Donald Trump is a germaphobe.
Apparently, yeah. Even though, that goes back to that funny, the dossier from Russia. That's what Donald Trump's great defense was when it came to, I guess, what could be called PP-gate, was just like, I'm a germaphobe.
Yeah, Trump, a known germaphobe, was reportedly disgusted at the thought of using Christie's own cell phone for the conversation with Obama and responded with such anger.
Yeah, he said, the quote was...
hey, Chris, you know my fucking number. Just give it to the president. I don't want your fucking phone.
But you can imagine Chris Christie's disgusting, grubby, Cheeto-filled phone. Very similar to maybe like a sixth grader handing the remote control over to you so you can play. Like, you know what? You can just have the
Wipe
remote.
It down.
I don't want to play Halo anymore because the remote control is sticky and disgusting. It's full of ecto-cooler liquid and a bunch of cheesy puffs and things like that. So that was one of the reasons why Chris Christie was out, which again shows you the character of someone like Donald Trump. That was that was basically a death sentence to the political career of Chris Christie when it came to Donald Trump and working in his campaign. And then the other thing...
I don't know if that was the death sentence. I think it was kind of like, remember when you got fired from, what was it, Burger King for putting the ketchup into...
the barbecue sauce and ketchup. Yeah,
into the nuggets?
Yeah.
You didn't get fired for that.
I did.
That was the last straw.
No, that was the only straw.
I think they were looking for a reason to fire you. And
I was eating a little off the line, But that's okay. Hanging out in the freezer a little bit too long.
Anytime someone says they got fired for something that small, they were looking to get... Like, man, I got fired. I was late, man. They just fired me for being late. It's like, no, they fired you for being late 6 times and being a shitty employee. They were looking to fire you.
Burger King, I would do some good things. Occasionally, I would take, because they're frozen patties, and we'll get back to, I want to talk about Jared Kushner and his father in a second. But I did just recall the frozen patties. You thaw them ever so.
Yeah.
And then you smush together 2 or 3 of them. You put that through the oven. You get yourself a big Whopper. And so I would do that for my company dinner or lunch. And then they did take offense to that.
Because you got 3 Whoppers.
But then I would say it's just one. And then, so they were kind of getting
Is it
annoyed.
a Whopper before it comes out of the oven?
Is it a Whopper going in? I don't know. Yeah. And it was also about 380 pounds, So they probably didn't like me eating all the food. But I love the food. Also, they have the cookies, the Spunkmeyers.
Oh, I love the Spunkmeyers.
You don't even want them when they're done. You want the dough. I would pop a little dough. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So maybe you do have a point. Maybe it wasn't me impregnating the chicken nugget with the barbecue sauce and ketchup. It was the series of things.
Yeah, that was just the nuggets was just the goddamn it moment.
Right.
God damn it.
So that was there was a lot of smoke there. And then the fire was me impregnating the chicken nugget. And they said, that's it.
Yeah.
Definitive proof. He's stealing the food.
Yeah.
And I'd probably deserve to be fired.
I want some chicken now.
Jared Kushner, Chris Christie. This is an interesting story that I actually did not realize. Chris Christie put Jared Kushner's father in prison.
Yep. Kushner's father, Charles, a real estate magnate in Jersey and New York, pleaded guilty to a tax fraud scheme in which he claimed hundreds of thousands of dollars in phony deductions for office expenses at the partnerships he created to manage the apartment buildings he owned.
This is amazing. So,
and he was a big Democratic donor, too. Huge Democratic donor.
Jared Kushner's father.
Jared Kushner's father.
Really?
Yep, absolutely. And Kushner also pleaded guilty to fraudulently making hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions to the Democratic Party in the names of employees and associates who didn't know their names were being used. And then Kushner also pleaded guilty to retaliating against a cooperating witness in the case, his sister. He did so by setting a trap in which he hired a prostitute to lure his sister's husband into a sexual encounter in a New Jersey hotel where the action was secretly photographed and videotaped. Kushner sent the pictures and tape to his sister as revenge, apparently motivated by Kushner's belief that she and her husband were helping U.S. Attorney Chris Christie and his prosecutors.
Get out of here. That's crazy. So he set his sister up with a prostitute?
He set his sister's sister's husband.
Oh my.
Yeah.
What a scumbag.
Yeah, what is that? I mean, the whole
level
family.
Oh my goodness.
That's the family that he's coming from. This is the caliber of people that we're dealing with here.
That is beyond what, I mean, this is just not normal.
It's not normal. This is rich. This is bad rich people.
Wow.
This is how bad rich people live their life. Jared Kushner is a bad rich person. Donald Trump is a bad rich person.
Well, apparently, according to you, Marcus, the White House likes Donald Trump more than his family.
Well, the blind items say that the White House likes Donald Trump more than his family.
Items are valid, even if they're blind.
And I'm of course not saying that all rich people are bad.
No, these are bad people.
I'm not saying that at all. But this
the idea of setting your sister's husband up with a fake prostitute skin
in a New Jersey hotel.
Sting.
Yeah, setting your sister's husband up with a fake prostitute in a fancy hotel to get out of tax fraud charges. That's bad rich person stuff.
Scumbag.
That's what they do.
Wow.
And that's who we have in the White House.
So Chris Christie, obviously, putting Jared Kushner's father in prison, probably not going to help him, have a role in the administration. And that's why as soon as Jared Kushner came into the administration, Christie was gone, being the head of transition. Because for a moment, Chris Christie was going to head up the transition from, of course, campaign to administration, and probably would have done a much better job than the individual they put in place there. So I think that's pretty much the news for the week here. And let's play this interview. It's me. It's Jeffrey Felix. He wrote the book Guarding the Juice. who is now loose. He will be out October 1st, which, I don't know what the terms of parole are. I would assume he can't get a reality television show. I don't know the exact rules. Well, today during the hearing, the parole hearing, his attorney read a letter, and OJ was talking about the computer programming class that he was taking, and he wrote a letter to a city councilman, and he said in the letter that he would perhaps have a blog in the future or one of those video streams, and then his attorney was like, "Oh no, you can't do that." And OJ's like, "Oh yeah, that's right, you can't do that though." So I don't know if he's going to be allowed to do those sorts of things, and I also think his legal troubles aren't over yet. He'll be entangled in the legal process here until his final days.
He just can't violate his parole.
He just can't violate the parole, and as far as prison goes, he had about as good of an experience as you possibly can. They say the best day in prison is still 1,000 times worse than a bad day here on the streets, but he got out after 9 years, and you could argue after 2 murders and an armed robbery, his sentence was not so bad. And now I'm looking at a picture of him, and he is smiling like he just scored a touchdown. Orenthal is back on the streets, ladies and gentlemen.
Orenthal is out.
Orenthal is out. All right, well, enjoy this interview with Jeffrey Felix. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Welcome back to Fox News Talk, everyone. I am your host, Ben Kissel. You can find me on Twitter at Ben Kissel. We're back. We're speaking with Jeffrey Felix. He was the guard who watched over OJ Simpson in prison for 7 years at the Lovelock Correctional Facility. Of course, OJ Simpson is currently serving 33 years for armed robbery charges and things around those charges. He's up for parole on Thursday. So, Jeffrey, thanks so much for coming back with us.
Hey, you're welcome. It's great to be here.
So we were talking about you had a chance, you befriended OJ, he began to warm up to you, and he actually spoke to you about what happened that evening with Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. And his story was that drug dealers had gone to collect a debt, and they are the ones who murdered them. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct, according to O.J. Simpson.
It's a fascinating story that he has sort of spun. How much do you believe, first of all, do you believe that story?
Well, I know for a fact that O.J. was there. I know for a fact that there was a blood trail going back to O.J.'s, Brentwood house.
Right.
That's kind of hard to explain. But lately, in the last 6 months of the news and all these crime stories, they're saying that 2 people were involved in this murder. So part of this might be true, but I pretty much figured out that O.J. had something to do with it. There was something there that O.J. did. Maybe he saw them doing what they were doing. Maybe he jumped in. I don't know, but he was involved in the incident.
Do you believe that O.J. Simpson should have been found guilty in the murder trial?
Absolutely not. The LAPD completely screwed that case up. Mark Furman lied on the stand, and he should have done prison time. Marsha Clark really didn't know what she was doing. I mean, the whole situation, we all know that Mark Furman planted the glove. We all know that. We all know Mark Furman lied. We all know Mark Furman's a racist.
Well, we don't know definitively that Furman planted the glove. That is one of the theories. Do you find that you work in corrections? You are an extension of the government. You are in you are an officer of the law. Do you find it contradictory with your core beliefs of law and order and justice that you do give the benefit of the doubt to O.J. Simpson in this case?
Well, I could take a law officer for his word. But when Mark Furman lied about the N-word on the stand, his whole testimony was shot out to me. I mean, if I was on that jury, I would have found O.J. innocent because there was that doubt. They should have never put Mark Furman on the stand. I don't even know how he got so deeply involved in this. I mean, the LAPD, I know, is a huge organization.
Right.
There's not 20 cops like a regular Northern Nevada, sheriff's department. But, the police department and law enforcement try to weed people like that out. If you're a racist, That's great. Be a racist at home, but you can't bring that to work when you're law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in my mind, he had motive to try to set OJ up.
Was there
You
any
understand
time?
what I'm saying?
Were there any times when you were watching over OJ Simpson that you felt perhaps you've gotten too close, or is this a normal thing when it comes to prison guards and the prisoners that they watch? I mean, as we said earlier, you spend a lot of time with these individuals, and you are their lifeline to the outside world. Was it special with OJ, or do you try to build that bond with other prisoners as well, perhaps in order to maintain the peace, or to just sort of allow them to have a little bit of comfort as they serve their time?
When OJ came to the prison, I think it was in 2008 or 2007, I was asked by the warden at that time to make sure nothing happened to OJ.
Right.
Because it's the warden's house, and he's an at-will position. If something would happen to the Jews, he would be in trouble. So I took that task very seriously, and I became really close to OJ. At no time or point during the years I guarded OJ did I ever cross the line. He never asked me to cross the line. Him and I.
What would that have been like? I just have a question. Of course, we had the two escaped prisoners upstate in New York. I believe it was Sweat, and I forget the name of the other fella. They had a relationship with their prison guards. What was something that OJ would have asked you to do that you would have found to be crossing the line?
Okay, if OJ would have done something like to cross the line. Hey, Felix, can you bring me in a coffee cake, or his favorite food, the calamari? Ask me to bring something into prison, anything like that.
Sure.
And he never did that. And if he would have asked me to do that, I would have had to report up front to the operations.
And do you think you would have done that?
Never.
Would you have reported that?
I would have had to report that.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And I explained that to OJ while we used to hang out. Hey, I really appreciate you never asking me to cross the line. You know, you're not your normal inmate running around here. You're OJ Simpson. And I thanked him for that, for never asking me, because I don't want to be put in that predicament.
Yeah, That's fascinating.
Horrible.
It is fascinating how celebrity is such a powerful asset to have, specifically in this country. When it comes to parole, of course, as we mentioned earlier, he is up for parole this Thursday. How much does it matter? First of all, do you believe he's going to be paroled? And second of all, how much does it matter that sort of, the dust has been kicked up, for a lack of a better term, when it comes to his, less than stellar past? How much does that outside influence matter on the people who will be making decisions about should OJ get paroled or not? And then again, do you believe he will be paroled?
Well, OJ goes up for parole this Thursday, and I hope he gets it. He's done 9 years out there. He's been clean, no write-ups. He's taken all the programs. He's held a job. He's helped other people out. I mean, he's on the straight and narrow. And all this media dust kicking up, as you say, it's kind of like, if there was a jury. If the parole board was a jury, they wouldn't be able to watch all this stuff. That'd be the first thing you ask them when you try to narrow the jury down.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys every night come home, they turn on the news, boom, there's OJ. They turn on later at night on CNN. They're watching, primetime justice, OJ murders. They're watching the Cole tapes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have to ask,
this is horrible for OJ.
Do you think that OJ was able to have such a stellar record in prison because of some preferential treatment?
Well, OJ never did anything that was majorly wrong. I mean, he might have had a few extra CDs in his house. He might have had a few extra games or rolls of toilet paper. He might have got away with, eating a cookie on the tier, which I quashed for him. But, he never broke any big laws. He never got any fights, never tried to escape. He was never really out of bounds. He treated all the officers and inmates with respect.
Thank you.
He's just a role model inmate.
Jeffrey, this conversation could go on for so much longer. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk. Just one final question, yes or no answer. If OJ is paroled, would you meet up with OJ Simpson on the outside? Would you be friends with him on the outside?
Absolutely. We're going to be playing golf in Florida if he gets paroled.
Fascinating. Jeffrey Felix, Guarding the Juice is his book. Thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate it. All right, well, that was the interview. Thanks so much for listening. Check Marcus Parks out on Twitter. Check Marcus Parks out on Instagram at Marcus Parks. I'm on Instagram at Ben Kissel1, on Twitter at Ben Kissel. Let's see, check out the merchandise page here. We got a bunch of different products and shirts, mostly just shirts, which I will call products.
Yeah, it's just
all shirts, but it's a product. Okay, so get one of those, and we'll see you all in Nashville this weekend. Cannot wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a bunch of hot chicken. All right, everyone, hail yourselves. Talk to you soon.
For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to cavecomedyradio.com.